Devlog number 28. So I'm trying something a little different today. I am actually recording on my new Linux laptop here. So I just wanted to show off that the game runs great here. One of the main things that had been getting in my way of this was audio, and as you can hear, I got it working now. It's not absolutely perfect, but it plays well enough to play audio, so that is just fine. So to get everything running here, I ended up rebuilding like my entire build system. Uh-oh, this bug's still here. I thought I fixed that. Okay, so we're going to see some new bugs that have to do with the platform I'm running on. So by pressing a gamepad button, the highlighted state of this button doesn't clear for some reason. If I click it, that doesn't fix it. Fascinating. Oh, now I don't have a cursor at all. What? Okay, now I do. I couldn't press a direction to get my cursor back there. Is that consistent? So I click play, I press down on my gamepad, nothing happens. Huh. Okay. Well, that's fun. All right, so we're going to get some buttons getting stuck down. All right. Anyway, so yeah, this will be fun. Whole new platform. I have more things to say about this, but I'm going to save them for the end of the video because they're probably less interesting than the main game stuff. So yeah, let's start with what I did in the game. I've been kind of working pretty hard at this scenario editor, and despite working pretty hard at it, it won't look much different. I reorganized the menu a bit, so like the new and import items are at the bottom. I'm not going to look at the scenario editor yet. Let's do that a bit later. First, I went through just a few old to-do items and did some stuff on my list. So here, if I look at my... Oh, well, I see a change I need to make there. So there are some numbers here. I own 1 sword, 1 armor, 1 potion, 1 fire, and 1 venom spell. Inventory items now have, lore does too, now have a stock number. So let's see, how can I best demonstrate this? Here in puzzle 1, I believe I have 2 potions. Oh, there's that terrible, terrible giant face that I need to fix. Inventory, yeah, okay, potions, 0 out of 2, 0 out of 2. Okay, 0 potions are equipped. So this is number equipped out of number total. Before, it would just show 2 different entries here for potion, and I didn't like that. I thought it made a lot more sense to coalesce these into a single item. There might be a lot of situations where you're having multiple items or spells of the same type, or multiple champions of the same type. In this case, we do have 2 mages. There we go. Mage, add to party. Yeah, okay, so what I'm missing here is a stock number of mages remaining. So I still have mage, add to party. If there were a 3rd battlefield tile here, we could see that I wouldn't have any more champions stocked. But yeah, so the way this ends up working is that if I were to equip on this mage potion... Oh, I won't be able to... I'll be able to demonstrate it here, sort of. Yeah, no, this will be fine. Okay, so you both get a potion. All right, so now, potion, 2 out of 2. Those are both equipped. I guess... Here I can't see who has what equipped, but I don't think that's actually important. Maybe it is. Maybe I should do that. So a new bit of UI here, other than the number, is that if I want to put, let's say, the fire spell on this mage, and the other one also wants the fire spell... Previously, what would happen is I would go into this menu and I just wouldn't even see a fire spell here at all. I would only see venom, and that'd be the only thing I could equip. I wouldn't know if I had a fire spell in my possession and just like it was equipped on someone else. So if I do this, click here, I can remove from mage 1 slot 1. So it knows that mage 1, I'm looking at mage 2 here, this number shows here now. I can just remove it from the other mage's equipment right here in the menu and then equip it on mage 2. So that's much more convenient. If I'm trying to dig an item out of my inventory, I don't have to figure out, well, who did I equip that on? What do I need to do? So just right there, if I want to change my equipment like that, I can do it. So yeah, that was on my list for a while, and I'm happy I've done it now. Another little minor thing. It kept bothering me. Let's see, I'm going to have to reset the state of this scenario, or go to the one that's specifically for this. I don't have a lot of saved scenario data on this computer. I'm actually recording on my laptop here, which is doing a great job. It is capable of running everything it needs to run. So I used to have this let's see. So it'll still look the same here on the map. So if I want to go to encounter 2, requires unlocking encounter 1. So yeah, that plays that little animation where these frames kind of zoom in from the edges and come over there. And I had kind of the same animation here, but it looked a whole lot worse just because of the way the colors worked. So now I'm just highlighting the row the same way that I do on the... okay, yeah, that highlights this too. Same way that I do on the thing I'm trying to get to. There's one with 2 prerequisites. Is it the U? It must be. Key 3, yeah, so those 2 rows highlight. Same way I'm doing in the scenario warning list view here in the editor. So like if I go to one of these and say, yeah, that. So just using the same mechanism there. Oh, and another little information completeness thing. Again, I'm going to have to go... Let's just reset the progress in this scenario. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. So true complete information checked. Oh boy, okay, so the bug also... Yeah, so it just acts as if this is still down. It's graphical only, won't affect behavior at all. But things will look a little funny. More and more my buttons are getting stuck down. This is fun. All right, so if I go here with true complete information, yeah, you can see the little dudes down there. And now, instead of just telling me what the prerequisites are, I can see what the rewards are for this encounter. I might change it so that I can inspect in detail the champions that I'll be coming up against for really true complete information. But right now you can't do that here. You'd have to go in and start and like actually see, like, here's what an imp is. I'm having some thoughts about like what information completeness really means for this game. Like, I put it sort of in my mission statement for the game that this is a true complete information game. So if you wanted to, you could start with a like 0 actual progress in a scenario. Check the checkbox in preferences, say, I want to see all the information. Come in here and like from the map screen without ever actually visiting an encounter, you could, in theory, see everything and solve everything like on paper. So you would have all the information to be able to do that. Then just come in here and input what you solved and play it out. While that's kind of cool to talk about, I don't think it really helps the game all that much. I'm expecting the actual experience here might end up being a little bit different. Like I might have that as a mode, again, a mode switch in preferences, but I don't know. I think leaving some room for discovery as you go through things, it's probably a good thing. Anyway, so I don't have details on exactly how I'm going to do that, but I'm thinking about it. I have thoughts. Have thoughts that are only partially formed, but yeah, like full information completeness, I'll leave some room for discovery. Anyway. So that was the inventory items, prerequisite thing. Yeah, so let's go to the scenario editor now. So in here, so right, I had this, yeah, so these are on the bottom now, so it just highlights the first item there, which is probably what you want to mess with. And if you want to create a new thing, it's down here. So this menu will look mostly the same. I fixed up, it was pointed out that the way I was presenting information in the icon row here wasn't, here, I'll do it here, it's a little easier to see. Wasn't exactly like the others, so I'm actually just showing the icon identifier here. Also, incidentally, I made this look better. I adjusted the colors. This is actually using the same highlight as was used for those prerequisites just a moment ago. But yeah, so I'm achieving contrast through mostly saturation here and value a little bit. The value is actually darker in the highlighted portion than the background. I think it looks a lot better. So you get this like bright laser blue on the highlighted one and the more muted blue just to serve as a backdrop that's not white, since these are all black and white icons. This backdrop color may make sense to change this. I still do absolutely plan to... What the heck is this icon? Oh, I know what that is. That's well, here, let's find out. I can click it, and it tells me this is icon texture atlas. Okay, yeah. So that would be used when... Where the heck does that even show up? Oh, well, I stuck that button down now. Yeah, those are stuck down. Is that in here? No. Okay, so that's probably just for future use. Anyway, getting a little ahead of myself. Yeah, anyway, so icon picker looks better now. Right, yeah, so I do still fully plan to change all of these icons to color representations. I just haven't figured out what I'm doing with that yet. And I find it helpful to establish the shape and just contour of an icon and overall design in black and white the way I'm doing it here. But yeah, these will not stay black and white forever. They will be full color. They'll look much nicer. The black and white aesthetic is temporary. I have come to that decision. Okay, so other than that, not actually a whole lot has changed here. I spent some more time playing with my color picker just because I wanted to. Menu cursors, this menu cursor, oh yeah, hides when I get close to it with the mouse now. Just so it doesn't get in the way of clicking on stuff. So yeah, get close to it and it just goes away. I have proper gamepad support here. I didn't show off that I didn't before, but now I do. So I can click on this and use gamepad directions to do that. It has nice acceleration on it. And I actually went as far as, there's an interesting technical problem here when moving diagonally with, so underneath the underlying data representation of this is a floating point value. I should rotate this. Most of the representation I see of a color square like this have black on the bottom and white on the left, top left. So I should make that like this. And that's easy to do. I will do that. The underlying representation of coordinates here is a value from 0 to 1. I'm going to use the word value two different ways. A floating point number from 0 to 1 representing the color's value, which is its brightness essentially. Technically value and brightness are different, but anyway, yeah, so the color's value, just because this blue is the same as value as this white, but the white has more brightness, and brightness is a perceptual thing, I think. Apparently I don't know exactly how it's defined, but I know how value is defined. If you have, let's say, FF0000, so that's pure red, the value of this is 1, because one of the maximum color component is FF, the maximum number. And okay, well, let's not get bogged down in how color math works in general. Why can't I? Oh, right, I have a weird gamepad thing going on here. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Oh, geez. Okay, I stayed focus locked on that. Okay, few things are broken here. Don't worry about it. It's subtle. You probably wouldn't notice if I didn't say anything about it. Anyway, yeah, so slider has the same acceleration on it and stuff. Right, so yeah, an interesting little technical problem that I solved here is that when I have underlying floating point representations, yeah, so 0 to 1 value, 0 to 1 saturation. When moving diagonally, you notice this looks real nice and stable. When moving diagonally with something like this, there's actually a nasty little type of artifacting that can happen. Let me see if I can demonstrate this, because I think this is just a super interesting technical problem. It's not particularly interesting, the place in the game where I'm messing with it. This is going to give me a warning about audio. It did not. This time, it didn't complain about an audio I/O error. All right. Only sometimes does it do that. This is a thing I need to fix in my audio code. I'm still recording properly, right? Looks like it to me. Yep. Okay. Doing this on a new operating system, so I don't entirely trust it, and I don't have a second monitor attached. Well, I do, but they're mirrored. But a second non-mirrored monitor attached to verify that it all looks good. Okay, so anyway, oh boy, right, I'm going to get to that later. Right, that's audio code, so I want to subl, source, Foresight Fight. Is it color? Oh, color picker view.c. So somewhere in here. Okay, is that not what it is? Where is the? Oh, right. Color picker view is the overall window that contains the widgets, but the actual widgets is like color value set, color saturation value control. Let's see, here we go. So yeah, let me just disable the smoothing that I do on the diagonal so you can see the difference. I'm also going to slow down how quickly that cursor moves. Oh, okay. The layout of this keyboard is weird. The page up and page down buttons are right next to the arrow keys. I don't love it, but it's how it is. You can also slow down the acceleration. All right, so everything goes at 1/10 of the speed. I'm going to disable this line. So it should be just this one. Okay. Unlike Windows, this computer compiles extremely fast. It's fantastic. It's the fastest of my 3 primary platforms for compilation. I love it. Whoa. Okay, so I want to go scenarios, manage, test scenario, edit, resource types, health, color. Okay, so now this will move much slower. And on the diagonal, so if you look carefully, you notice, okay, so that's mostly not doing it. So this is going on a diagonal, like X is changing about at the same time as Y, but right now, it's actually going in a stair-step pattern, like down, left, down, left, down, left, down, left. Here I managed to get it mostly on a diagonal, but yeah, you can see how it's not, they're not both changing at the same time. And I think that looks bad. This is like a general principle that I was aware of. And this is the first time I've actually had an excuse to go and properly fix this problem. So if I enable this line, rebuild, it'll still go at the same speed, but you can see the difference. Oops. Resource types, CPU fans on, don't worry about it. Here we go. So yeah, now any diagonal that I do will make sure that X and Y change at the same time. This was a prickly little problem to solve, actually. It's much more complicated than it might sound like. All right, I'm going to put this back the way it was. Undo, 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 undo. So I call this match diagonal mantissa f function. That's a wonderful name. And what that does is, I can actually show you the source code for this, just for fun. I'm kind of proud of this, you might be able to tell. This would be much more showy if I had like some kind of, you know, classic Zelda-style adventure game with like a little Link sprite moving around or something like that. You know, imagine that kind of thing. But yeah, any kind of diagonal movement with pixel art, I think it's important to, it's not utilities, it's game math. Important to match the boundary conditions at which, I'm not used to this keyboard, so I'm a little slow on it. Since scalar.c. Also on Linux, this is the way you browse files. At least that's the way I browse files. All command line. So command line, Sublime Text, pretty much the only 2 windows I see. Match diagonal mantissa f. Okay, I have some actual documentation for this. I think. Two coordinate values moving together in the direction specified by direction x and direction y. Yeah, so it takes 2 floating point coordinate values, pointers to them. It will mutate one of these or the other. This is a vector. I just have it as 2 separate floats, so I don't have to pull in my vector header for this. So direction x and y are just like, it basically just checks the signs of those. You know, x is positive if it's moving right, negative if it's moving left. Y is positive if it's moving up, negative if it's moving down, or whatever coordinate system you want. It's just the slope is all that matters. Then the unit size, yeah. So the unit size, this quantizes to pixels in the size of. Oh boy, we're getting like super technical here. You know what? Let's not. If you want the technical details, post a comment and I'll go into more detail, but I'm guessing nobody wants all these technical details. This makes the numbers look nice. It matches the fractional component of x or y, whichever is appropriate, and makes them cross the threshold at the same time. It just so happens that in this case, it makes sense to do that on the actual coordinate value that will be in my data. Oh, right, I didn't rebuild after I reverted the speed. I could just as easily do it graphically only. Mostly, yeah, there are some complications with that. It's better if I can actually change the coordinate values, but for various reasons. Why is my cursor not hiding? I have to move the cursor so that it can hide from gamepad inputs. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Back to full speed. Anyway, yeah, so this is fully gamepad usable, or keyboard or whatever. Well, if you have a keyboard, then you probably have a mouse. It's pretty much guaranteed. And also, I'm assuming you have a keyboard if you want to enter here, even if you're using a gamepad. Anyway, so yeah, that was just a fun little technical problem I solved. A rabbit hole I wanted to go down just because I was aware of this whole diagonal floating point rounding not happening at the same time problem, and I saw an excuse to solve it properly. So I made a nice little reusable function, and I'm using it here. And it looks real nice. So yeah, last time I had shown that a champion resource can be fully edited in every way except its formulas. I'm working on a formula editor. I haven't gotten very far with it yet. So I'm rewriting some stuff inside my program just to make this work the way it needs to. Yeah, I'm as far as opening a menu for like adding a new formula operation to the thing. This is never going to be very pleasant to use, or at least it won't be right now the way I'm doing this. I just want it to be possible to input a formula here. I'll make it nice later. I don't know if I'll end up just doing like a big text field with some kind of language that I'll actually compile to my formula instructions or what. So this will not be user-friendly yet. But what it's doing right now, let's go to, oh, by the way, I can, yeah, so like, these are not the formulas I'm looking at, but it's using the same formula printing functions as these. And I can point at those, and hypothetically I'll be able to edit them eventually. Right now these formulas don't have much in them. It's just result equals actor's health max, but I can't edit it yet. Anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that has to happen for that to be nice. Although another thing I did manage to do, I got scrolling into this view. That scroll bar probably needs to be in a different place. It doesn't look great where it is, but like this works. So you can click there to go up and down. You can drag the scroll bar if you want. I can use my, I can use my right stick to scroll up and down. Oh, this left gamepad mode because I made a mouse input. There we go. Right, yeah, so I have something funny going on, like directional gamepad inputs can't put me into gamepad mode right now on this platform. Anyway, yeah. So right stick, this all works just like the, oh, interesting. My menu cursor is applying its, ooh. No, that's normal. It's just blending over black. That's the way it's supposed to look. Menu cursor is applying its normal smoothing interpolation as this changes rows. That's funny. And I can scroll wheel. I can do all sorts of stuff. Or I can just like point up here and it'll scroll with it. Anyway, yeah. So scrolling was surprisingly easy to put in here. This was only an hour of work total. So yeah. And I don't know what to do with this. Like, okay, if you're putting a scroll bar in a view that looks like this, where do you put it? Suggestions are welcome. Do you put it out to the right here? That's plausible. Do you leave it as it is? Like, this is not unusable. It's just a little ugly. It's going over top of my arrows there. Whoa, right. Yes, of course. Fire. Mm-hmm. Going over top of my arrows that show that this is an interactive row. Right, yeah, gamepad mode. I could like allocate some extra space on the right here when it scrolls and push everything to the left. So those arrows would be here. I don't know how that'd look for like parts where the scroll bar is not. It'd probably be fine. Maybe that's the thing to do. Yeah, just leave some extra space. And it doesn't work great with the rounded corners here though. I don't know, it's usable. There shouldn't be too many of these scrolling things. It just has to be usable. Yeah, so right now, editor just needs to be usable. I mean, this will show up not only in the editor, like if you have an inventory somewhere with a whole lot of items in it, or like a whole lot of encounters here, like this list will scroll in most scenarios. Like this only fits, let's see. That's 6 items, so 12 items would be about here. So if you have like 16 encounters or so, this list would have to scroll. I should know this number. It's a specific number. It's like 18 total lines. I guess, yeah, this window would nudge itself down a little bit to... Oh, right, I did fix the thing where where the layout would change in ways I didn't like for... Yeah, so let's say I change the name of this property. So that window got wider. Ooh, what's this? That's a graphical bug. Got a weird little orange thing there. Okay, that's interesting. Never seen that before. Yeah, so this remembers that this window had opened to the right. Actually, it just forces this window to always open to the right. So I have a tail coming out of here still pointing at this row because that's where it originated. If it gets wide enough, which this thing doesn't handle yet, but don't worry about that. Oh. I didn't expect that. So this window changed its layout because it no longer fits to the right of the properties button. Okay, so there's a threshold here. Let's delete a few characters. Let's delete a few characters. Here we go. Okay, so now this window is wide enough that the tail doesn't show up anymore. If I just delete a few characters, just going to be a couple more. Yeah, there we go. So I crossed the threshold so that the tail can point at something visible down there. Yeah, got a weird little orange thing here. I'll fix that. That's easy. I think I know exactly why that's happening. That's my property name now. Anyway, so I made that stuff nicer. Yeah, so that's kind of where I am. It's just a bunch of fiddly little technical stuff. It's not incredibly satisfying to look at. It's not incredibly satisfying to program, honestly, most of it. The most satisfying thing that I did was this color picker thing, which is like polishing up something that's barely relevant to anything. But I don't know. I find it important to have every little detail like that made real nice. So, rest of this video is going to be talking about technical things about my build system. I do want to talk about it because I think it's interesting, but like, if you're just here for the game, this is where the stuff about the game ends, so see you next time if you're leaving now. But if you want to stick around for some technical details about how my build system works, to get this running nicely on Linux, well, it's complicated. So this game has run on Linux since I first started it. That just kind of comes for free. Oh, look at that double slash there. I think I know what that is. That just kind of comes for free with the game framework that I use. So my game framework is called STEM. It is, whoa, okay. Oh, this is what currently I see on my Firefox homepage for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, SVN here. Okay. Why do I have a serif font here? I changed this to sans serif. I don't approve of this. And I can't... There we go. Yes, I can zoom. All right, so anyway, STEM, my game framework, is what underpins all of the game code in Foresight Fight. This is what allows me to write in C high-performance code that is platform agnostic, because STEM does all of the platform interface stuff and also is just sort of a collection of all the knowledge I have accumulated over the years of game development. So anything that can be made into a generic API that I can reuse for future games goes into STEM as its own library. So take, for example, JSON.io. So this is my JSON parser and emitter that I've written. Has an API here, so JSON.io .h defines the API. I can, where's the main? Where is the main function for like parse? Oh, right, it's not here. This is like utility functions and stuff. So like JSON parser, load file. So like I would call JSON parser, I would link to JSON.io, my STEM library, after having compiled it and installed it on my system. Link to this, include this header. So JSON parser load file is a function then that I can call from anywhere, which takes a file path, optionally returns an error, and gives me back a structure of parsed JSON data. Extremely useful. And then, for example, I have JSON serialization, which uses another library's interface to implement a serialization interface that underneath uses JSON as a representation. So serialization is another library, which is just an API for saying, like, I have a data structure that I want to write to disk or read to disk or write to memory or read from memory or whatever. Here's the API for actually doing that. So like read a Boolean, read a 16-bit integer, read a bit field, a string, whatever, arbitrary binary data, etc. So this is an interface that then JSON serialization implements to say, okay, well, I'm going to pack all this data into JSON nodes and know how to talk to JSON I/O to write that out as a JSON string, like the sort of thing you would see in, for example, my test scenario. So like that is the translation layer between this text here on disk and the structures. Foresight Fight scenario data dot h. Data structures in memory here, like, yeah, sure, encounter configuration, all these fields that I can access from my C code. So anyway, so STEM's a collection of all of those different APIs. They do lots of stuff. Got gamepad, game math. We were just looking at that. The shells are the windowing system interfaces. So like GLX shell is what creates an OpenGL context and window and does like input handling and stuff. Then I have native audio that talks to, it would be ALSA on this platform. It's the name of the audio library. And pretty much just says, well, here's a callback where you fill in PCM audio data, and I'm going to take that and send it to the audio system so that it comes out the speakers. So anyway, I have a bunch of libraries. There's like 30 of these things, and they have interdependencies. And I had this system where there's a Ruby script here, which is called by my makefile. Yeah, so when I want to compile something that uses stem, I use a makefile. So make is a build language you can use to just manage dependencies, manage compilation of source files and assembling them into an executable. I'm using it in a pretty elaborate, advanced way. Usually makefiles are much more simple than this. But I've come up with a system where I have a global makefile that has, this thing is kind of a big monster. This knows how to build code in the way that I build code for every platform that I support, how to link it, how to resolve dependencies. Theoretically, stuff like code signing would be in here if I did that. Currently, I don't. Deploying to stuff like Android phones, if I build for Android and want to put it onto my phone. So yeah, that's all included in this big monster of a makefile. Then each individual project in STEM and project that uses STEM has a little bit of boilerplate code in it for including that global makefile. And then everything that actually does work for building is defined in variables here. So I have this big list of source files. Foresight Fight has a lot of source files to it. I have a list of library dependencies. So this pulls in most of my STEM libraries. Not all of them, but most of them. I think collision is one of the main ones that I don't use here because there's no collision detection in Foresight Fight. So yeah, STEM is granular. You don't need it all at once. I don't need collision detection code bloating my executable if I'm not doing any collision detection here. Theoretically, strip might be able to take that out of a release build, but I can also just do it by not linking to the library in the first place. So now, the way I specify these is just library name / version. And for all these, I just say latest version, whatever is the latest, because I don't have specific version requirements for this particular project. And they can be, so main app is the Foresight Fight target. There's also a unit test executable that gets compiled, a test harness executable that links to less stuff. Anyway, yeah, so dependency management is complicated. I have 3 different executable targets here. One is technically an application target, but that's only different in that it gets stuff like an icon, a human readable name that includes spaces. This is something that an end user would see. This is just something that needs to run code that an end user would not see. Anyway, so I need a way to resolve these as linker commands and include flags for GCC or Clang or whatever compiler I'm using. Depends on the platform. I believe right now it's Clang on the Mac and on Android, GCC on everything else. Clang on iOS in theory if I ever compiled for that, but that part of my framework is dusty and out of date. So anyway, make is not really a full scripting language, even though I'm almost using it like one here with all these ridiculous defines and stuff. Was fun to dig into. Make is pretty cool. But I have a helper Ruby script, which takes this set of variables and resolves it into commands for the linker, which need to be in a specific order for Windows, for example. Like when compiling on Windows, I need to specify a library that depends on other libraries first, then the libraries that depends on. Otherwise, they won't link properly. So there's some sorting involved, there's some version resolving involved. So somehow my Ruby script has to know, yeah, so let's see, where does this actually get invoked? Well, that question's actually not that hard to answer. Yeah, so in this monster of a make file, somewhere buried in here's a Ruby invocation, stemconfig.rb, add dependencies, the platform that I'm building for, and then these are all the dependency variables that are in the makefile that's invoking this. So yeah, that's the invocation of the Ruby script, which, yeah, so here's the documentation of how to use this thing. What this does, let's see, I have this open here actually. No, that's not it. So my libraries are actually installed. Let's actually go. So here in user local stem is where it lives on Linux. I have the built and installed versions of all the libraries that I've built. So let's look at, for example, JSON.io. If I can find my keys. JSON.io contains 130, so it'll have a directory per installed version. 130 is the only one I have on this system. Has my changes at the time it was installed, license, readme. What's in that readme? Not much, and it doesn't have a new line at the end. But anyway, that describes the library. JSON.io implements parsing and formatted of blah, blah, blah. Whoa, I can click this. That's nice. I'm easily impressed. But also in here is, JSON.io. So I have includes JSON.io, JSON emitter, JSON.io, JSON parser. So include files are there, as is the library itself, built in all of the ways that I build things. So libstem JSON.io.a is where the actual code for the parser lives. So I have to link to that, and I have to include, so I have to link to that during linking. I have to include these headers during compilation, or at least specify a path to them in case I want to include them in any file that I'm compiling. So those are installed on my system, and I have a registry of installed libraries here. So unit test on this system, the latest version is 120. It is a stem library. It has no dependencies. These are the link flags you will need if you want to link to unit test library. And this file looks different per platform. This only concerns itself with Linux and every platform that Linux builds, which is Linux. Linux x86 64 specifically here. I can also build Linux i386 and theoretically Linux ARM v7L, playing with a Raspberry Pi and trying to get this game to compile for it, just for fun. I'm not there yet, but it's getting close. Yeah, so playing with the Raspberry Pi, have a new Linux computer here for my main thingy. I just really wanted this to be more robust. And all the stuff I've described was a little janky the way it was implemented, though it did ultimately work okay, except for one thing that drove me nuts. It used to be, if I want to update this stemconfig cache.json, which is the foundation of how all my link flags get passed to my compiler, what's the latest version of everything. So required for building literally anything that uses stem. Like I can't resolve this without a fully filled out stemconfig cache.json. What I used to have to do to rebuild this was this. So ruby stemconfig.rb Rebuild, what did I call this? Rebuild cache SVN, I think is what I renamed it to. Yeah. Oh, geez. Huh, that's broken. Well, it's okay that it's broken. Oh, shoot, did I just overwrite this? Yes, I did. Okay, well, that's messed up now. All right, so I've created a problem for myself. All right, I put myself into a state where I can't compile code. And I messed up my demo, so I can't fully demonstrate this. What this used to do is it went out to my SVN server and did like 30 HTTP queries to load the makefile for each one, parse it, get the variables out that it needed, and create the cache from that. That was extremely slow, and it had to rebuild the entire thing if I changed even just one library in a way that required a stemconfig cache change. So what it does now is whenever I build a stem library, okay, I can demonstrate this and start repairing the mess I just made. So let's go to the very first one I have to build now is unit test. I'll make clean just to see how this compiles. Okay, so let's look at the makefile for libstem unit test. It specifies a project name, a version. Oh, what the heck is this? This doesn't belong here. This should go in makefile global. Probably. Yes, this should go in makefile global. Okay, I'll make that change. It has one library target. There are no executable targets. There are no application targets. Unit test cannot unit test itself. Unit test has to exist. Well, I guess it could, except there isn't really anything to unit test. This is just like dynamic linking glue, macros, various things. This can go away. This is automatically assigned by makefile global. So yeah, this has a pretty minimalistic makefile that just describes a few variables that are specific to the unit test library. Yeah, so I can definitely delete this. Oops. Oops. Ooh, there's my backspace key. I will be able to delete this when I update makefile global to automatically generate it. I won't do that right now. These are all the platforms that are supported by this. Right. That does make sense. You don't build unit tests and run them literally on a cell phone, so I don't have Android or iPhone OS in here. I have to put some special C flags here because otherwise GCC would complain about a thing related to long jump. I don't know if this is necessary. It probably is. And you have to link to -LDL. So we saw that in stemconfig before I cache, before I destroyed it. This is the only source file. This is the only header file. And then there's really nothing else. Library will be installed, and then you invoke the global makefile. So when I make this, it reads the global makefile, parses those variables as necessary, does the compilation. So the global makefile generates all these commands, which invokes my compiler, linker, everything, and outputs a static library and some includes. So I just created build, include, unit test, test suite.h, so that's the publicly facing include. That make I just did also created library, so debug profile release. Same code for same platform, same architecture, built with different optimization and debug symbol settings. So there are 3 output static libraries here. And now if I make install, that will copy it to user local stem, my install directory. So it gets the library, it gets the includes, it gets changes, license, readme, just so that I know what the documentation for this project was at the time that it was this version that was installed, in case I want to dig those out. And then it calls stemconfig.rb to say register installed lib unit test and passes the makefile there. So this lets my Ruby script, instead of reaching out to my SVN server, whenever the library gets installed, it just takes the makefile that made that library, does this all locally, just reads the file there, and inserts just that library's entries into stemconfig cache. So now if I look for unit test. So it's filled out these fields. If I had looked at specifically unit test before then, it would look like all these others, empty and sad, etc. So yeah, that was a very long-winded and detailed way to say that I made my build system nicer. Things that really only affect me are a whole lot better now. And my game framework, thus this game that uses it and all other games that will use it, have better multi-platform support now. So yeah, that's a little look into the technical details of my world with this game framework. All right, so this sure was a long-winded video to do as the first one recorded on a new platform. Sure hope nothing has gone wrong here, or else that's 45 minutes of my time that I wasted and have to redo. Anyway, yeah, so I'll see you next time for whatever progress that I made.